Kia ora koutou. I'm Simone. I just want to start with where are you from? This is something that we learned in te reo class recently. It's rude to ask what someone's name is before you ask where they're from, and I thought that was really fascinating. So I have heritage in Malaysia, Holland, England, and I grew up in Sydney. I moved to Melbourne and now I'm here in Tāmaki, Makaurau. Ko Simone taku ingoa. My name is Simone. Ooh. So this is my fam. My mum is Malaysian and my dad is Australian Dutch. Well, actually, mum's Chinese Malaysian and dad's Australian Dutch with a bit of English in there. And actually a connection to Rotoiti, near Rotorua. So you can see there we're quite mixed, my sister and I. So just to give you a little background as to what Malaysian Chinese kind of looks like. It's all really vibrant, lots of dragons. I was born in the year of the dragon, so I'm meant to be lucky. Flakes was my favourite food when I was growing up. And then there's just so many things that are intertwined in Malaysian culture. So you've got Indian, you've got traditional Malay, and then you've got the Chinese who came over. And so my grandfather came over from China to Malaysia, and they're called Peranakan. And the European Australian culture, as you can see, is slightly different to the Malaysian culture. Here we have Happy the Dragon. He was the local bank dragon, St George Bank, from where I grew up in Sydney. You've got different bird life, you've got completely different culture to what Malaysian Chinese is. And so there was a huge culture clash growing up. And I didn't realise that until I got older, is that there was just a constant battle between the ideology of bringing a child up as a Chinese parent and a Western parent. And I think that really kind of, I had some struggles there growing up because I didn't quite fit into the Chinese side and I didn't quite fit into the Western side. So I guess the references growing up was I love Asian food and I still love Asian food. But then I kind of felt like I belonged to the Western side of things. So it was just a little bit of a culture clash, and even still I have this. So I'm just going to show you this. This is a form that I filled out a few times here. What ethnic group do I belong to? That was a really big question, and it still kind of plagues me because I'm just like, well, am I Chinese? I'm not New Zealand European. I guess I am Dutch. I guess I have Malaysian background. What actually am I? Am I Australian? What is it? So I'll just give you a little bit of background to how I grew up. So in Sydney, I obviously went to school there. I went to university there, and I started out with my junior jobs. So I've done quite a few things. At uni, I thought I was going to be an editorial designer. We all kind of had that, understanding that maybe that's not the case. I actually did really badly in, spatial design at uni, which is quite funny. So I did a lot of branding, editorial design. I did a good stint at finished art, which actually taught me so many things. I had a little stint in advertising. I essentially got fired. Corporate design, so just doing all of those, bank letterheads and things like that. I did a stint of that. And I guess after advertising, I just tumbled into the world of retail wayfinding, which is, designing spaces for, say, Woolworths or Countdown. And then I kind of went into the world of freelance and tried a few other things out and fell into the world of events. So I actually did the Australian Open of Surfing with Hurley, and that was really, really fun. So I got to work on, big stages of work, and then you've got, different ideas around how we're going to promote this surf event. So it was really interesting. It went from the top of, the event space, working with Nike, because Hurley's part of Nike, all the way down into the drinking fountains. So it was just a really fun, I guess, time as a freelancer working in event spaces. So after that, I decided I was sick of Sydney, because Sydney can be quite a hard place to work and to live. So I decided to move to Melbourne with my partner. And this is where I kind of fell into the world of wayfinding and placemaking and customer experience. So I'll just tell you about how I found the love of designing for people. So, for example, retail wayfinding was kind of my, I guess, gateway into that. Just really understanding how spaces work and how we can organise it for people just really struck a good chord with me. And then I kind of, when I moved to Melbourne, I started working at a different company, and we did heaps of large wayfinding projects, and it was kind of my first rodeo as a wayfinding designer, so I really had no idea what I was doing. But I really love that idea of, how do we get people to move around a space, especially complex spaces. And then I got to do a little bit of placemaking as well. So this was in Melbourne. I got to design a bespoke typeface for a bridge that connected Birrarung Ma in Melbourne City to the Australian Open Tennis Centre. And this was kind of my first, I guess, connection to traditional Indigenous work. It was a bit of a stretch, and I feel like a lot more connection needs to be, I guess, included into this project. But I got to design something that was, I guess, set in stone, literally set in stone. And a cool thing about this one was Serena Williams was, standing in, behind my bespoke lettering, which was really fun. I couldn't show that picture. And so when I moved away from that company, I actually worked for Public Transport Victoria, where I got to learn so many things. I got to do customer testing. I got to look at a holistic system for this one train station, Flinders Street Station, which is, I guess, the busiest station in Melbourne and Victoria, and in some cases in Australia. So really understanding what customers needed through the station, through testing, really kind of lit that fire under me around, designing for people and how can we make that experience the best it can be. So I guess not a lot of people know what wayfinding is. It's quite bespoke. So they're essentially information systems that guide people through a physical environment and enhance their understanding and experience of the space. And I'll just take you through kind of what that means to me. So I guess I moved from Melbourne to Tāmaki, Makaurau. And I guess arriving here was a weird experience, right? It was almost like a parallel universe to Australia. And this is what I kind of saw when I arrived. And I was actually a little bit disappointed. And I'm just like, where's the local kind of aspect to this environment? It just feels like a regional airport of Australia, which is, sad, I guess. This is what I was kind of expecting. So this is an airport. So my mum's from Penang in Malaysia. And so this is what I was kind of expecting was, the local language to kind of just be there to make me feel like I've changed country, essentially. I kind of got that feeling as the atmosphere was slightly different, but I guess maybe that was because it wasn't peak and it was, pretty empty. But I wanted more. I wanted Tāmaki Makaurau to show me more. So I want to talk about manaakitanga, which is the process of showing respect, generosity and care for others. So when I arrived, I actually instantly felt this. I actually felt instantly at home here because there are lots of people who actually look like me, which is something that, I didn't realise I really needed. So, going out on the street, I have a doppelganger. She was in, I think, Survivor, and apparently we look the same. I should have put a photo up of her. But yeah, just that sense of like, oh yeah, I actually fit in here. So that was something really lovely. So what I was just looking at was, what makes Tāmaki Makaurau as a diverse city? Because I see, working on lots of different projects, lots of international projects and national projects, I'm actually working with quite a few international people. So I've got lots of Europeans, like French, Spanish, Italian, and then lots of various local people. And I think that is something that we need to be aware of, is that Tāmaki Makaurau is actually so diverse and it's rising as well. The diversity is rising. So I think we just need to keep that in the back of our mind when we design. So I guess when I arrived, because of that lackluster experience that I had at Auckland Airport, was, how can we raise that cultural identity? And I remember being in a meeting with Auckland Council, and I said something that really was, it didn't sound right. So I said wakas instead of waka. And that really was like, oh, I feel so embarrassed. And it kind of spurred me to really start to respect that culture a little bit more. Because if I went to Malaysia, I can't speak Bahasa and I can't speak Chinese. If I went there and just disrespected that language, like people would, I don't know, maybe it's just a personal thing, but I feel like I should respect that more. So this was the turning point for me. So just take you through a few things that we've started to design here. So this was Altea Te Pokapū, Altea Centre. And I think it's really important to start elevating te reo Māori on everything that we do in some way, because I guess that's the number one thing that people see. Like you can show patterns and things like that, but this is, something that people can see like everywhere. The other one that we've just finished was the downtown program. So this is the first bilingual design that Auckland Transport has ever implemented. And I guess our experience of this project was quite a rocky one. We had COVID that came in halfway through the project. There was talk of not having bilingual content on there and just English content, and I thought that was just such a shame. So we worked really hard as a team at Maynard, and we managed to get it all sorted. So I guess it's like sometimes when you work with these big organisations, they do beat you down. And I think that's something that we just need to remember is just, what are our battles and what is the thing that we could, I guess, win? What are those little things that we can win that make a big impact? And I think this has, I guess, solidified my thinking around adding bilingual content and just feeling like you're at home. You're feeling like you're being heard. And so there's a few other things. So the whole downtown, apart from the cycle lane, unfortunately, is bilingual. And we didn't have very long to design this. It was a really quick project after we started in 2019, and all of a sudden we were like, oh my God, we need to get all these artwork done. But working with the Auckland Transport team, there are very specific people who will back you and will back you for the right cause. So I have to give thanks to the Auckland Transport team for actually pushing it. Another project that we've been working on is actually Auckland Airport. So you can see here, we actually did some work for the isolated pier for where people are coming in from overseas aren't mingling with the COVID-free people. So we actually got to do a little bit of work around adding te reo Māori to the signs. I mean, unfortunately, it's not the national standard, but we've got it on the signs. For a time there, they were like, no. And the leadership team was like, no, we're not doing this. And I guess the leadership team was middle-aged white people, I have to say it. But through, we've worked with the airport on quite a few projects that actually got canned as COVID came on. But they did a lot of work talking to local iwi and really starting to understand, the need to have te reo Māori on the sign, especially if they're on their land as well, and they actually, took away a maunga for the airport. So I guess I'm really proud of the airport for actually getting to this point and thinking about it properly. So another thing that I want to talk about is designing for minorities. I mean, adding te reo Māori to signage is a good thing, but what about the other types of minorities that we have here? So the accessible community is something that I'm really passionate about. We actually don't give them enough credit for, I guess, improving into an independent state, because everyone, I guess, from the 60s thought that, anyone with a disability is a vegetable, which is not the case now, and probably wasn't the case back then. They just weren't given the opportunities to try and be independent. So now the accessible community are way more independent than they ever have been. And it's something that for Flinders Street, there's multiple entrances to this station, and quite a few of them aren't level access, which is not great for anyone who needs to use the lift or, escalators and just can't walk long distances. And what I have found working on quite a few projects here is that hasn't been thought about. If you're, say, so my auntie had a stroke when I was quite young, so she's paralysed on one side of her body. So she can still walk around. It just takes so much more effort than us able-bodied people. And then when we talk about, creating this equality for them, it's not actually happening here just yet. So, I guess for an example, they'll have to walk 3 or 4 times the distance to get to the lift or to get to a certain point of their journey. And I just don't think that is equal. So whenever we work, we just try and bring up this point around, is this equal access for all? And what does that mean? So for Flinders Street, it is a heritage building, so it was a real struggle to try and include those access points. But what we did do, is highlight on mapping and on the signage around what is an accessible entrance and what does that mean? Because there's so many different types of accessibility needs. So for example, we've got ramp entrances and we've got level access. We've got entrances that join up to lifts, but unfortunately, so this entrance down here is actually a level access, but people need to go 200 metres up the platform to get to the lift, and then they go up to the lift, transfer, and come down and go for another 200 metres to get to their right point, because the boarding points for the trains are at each end of the platform. And even that information is just not given to them either. So, which point of the platform do I need to go to? And I think that's something that happens here as well, which we're trying to improve. The other thing is, really letting, our blind community know what kind of rooms they're entering, what levels they're entering. I feel like braille and tactile signs are not done that well here. Basically, people can actually read raised letters more than they can read braille, and it's just something that we keep in mind. But even our braille is bilingual. So it's just something that we've been trying to incorporate with all of our work. It's actually part of standards, so we need to make sure that is actually implemented. The other thing is, can we design for all types of people? And how do we create these spaces for all types of minorities? This is actually just over there on I call it the banana bridge. How can we create these environments for people to be confident and happy in as a city and a country? So to us, feeling at home is feeling like your city is designed for you in mind. And that's just, you know, something around trust. You have to trust the city is being designed for you, feeling like you belong here in some way, being acknowledged as a minority. I think that's something that's really important. And then when you do the work, you know, the aroha that goes with it, you have to be, I guess, really proud of what you're producing for all of your users. And then having respect for them. And I think that this kind of slide just sums up, you know, what home is to me. And I think that's it. Yeah.